So let me get this straight. We're in a world with nothing but alligators and we're a private investigator, but this game isn't called Investigator? Alright, but you're on thin ice, buddy. So, the basis for this game is that we are in Alligator, New York City, and yes, it is really called that. We are in a world that is entirely populated by alligators, and we seem to be some sort of private investigator that's been called in to help this guy on the screen named Pat. Now, Pat is a little bit of a nervous guy, and he has a feeling that his family is trying to take him out, so he kind of wants us to look into that and investigate around to make sure that he is okay. Now, I want to say from the top, this game is truly a hidden indie gem. I hadn't heard of this game before last week, and this game is just awesome. It's got this cool noir style art mixed with the alligator kind of cartoony thing, and it's got so many pop culture references that are blended into alligators. It's really right up my alley, and it's amazing I hadn't heard of it before now. Anyway, back to the story. Pat is going to send us all over Alligator, New York City to investigate with his family. It's part point-and-click adventure and part different mini games that vary in difficulty and also in quality. But overall, this game is fantastic and I can't wait for you to check it out. After our first meeting with Pat, we earn our first achievement right away, called Got the Time, for checking our watch. The time is not super important, but we do have a limited amount of time in the day. The game started in John Johnny's restaurant, cafe, and inn, but now that we're outside on the street, we can get a little bit more into the other characters of the game. The first character that we see when we step outside is a guy named Slick Mickey, who has a table set up right outside conveniently that wants to play a game with us. But I don't know if we should trust a guy named Slick Mickey. When we interview these people related to Pat's story, we get to ask them 3 questions. Who they are, how they know Pat or are related to Pat, and what this big event is tonight, since we don't know anything. All of this information is really just kind of world building for the characters and the family that we're investigating, but it is good to know how these people are related to Pat, as we'll get into a little bit later. And a classic thing that everybody in this family seems to love is that they don't want to tell us anything about this secret event because they don't want to upset anybody else in the family. But they might be willing to trade a little bit of information with us if we're willing to play a game or help them out in some way. So Slick Mickey's game that he wants to play is a little game of following the queen out of 3 cards on his table. But unfortunately for Mickey, he isn't very good at it. He actually never moves the queen at all, so it's pretty easy to track. Once we win the game, we get a family member badge. We don't know what this is yet, but we get one for every successful minigame completion. Interesting. And we also learn that Slick Mickey actually has pretty tight lips because even though we won his game, he doesn't really want to tell us anything. So moving on. It's pretty hot outside here, so we decide to step into the local arcade, and while we're clicking around, we find a weird puzzle piece hidden in one of the skee-ball machines. There's also some other things we can interact with, but that puzzle piece really, something there. But while we're in the arcade, let's go ahead and interact with the members of Pat's story that are in here. First one being Sweet Geraldine. And Sweet Geraldine is an interesting one to start with because she's not actually related to Pat. She's one of the few characters in the game that is completely unrelated to the family. But that doesn't mean that we can't help her out. Her main goal is to get different prizes out of the claw machine, but she's a little too short to operate everything effectively, so she's just gonna watch over our shoulder while we play. I was a little concerned about being able to grab things, but pretty much every grab in this machine I went for, you get something. You just need to be a little bit more careful about the specific thing that Sweet Geraldine wants. Pretty much every minigame in this game have 3 different rounds that you need to play through to succeed. And the final round for this run in particular is to pick up the main character of Final Friend City. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of references and puns in this game. I'm not going to call out every single one, but, you know, he's right there. Look at him. He's so anime. We grab another Not Quite Family badge and we're on our way. The other arcade gator that we care about is Joni. Now, Joni has the leather jacket, the cool hairstyle, looking super tough, dangerous, just hanging out by the pinball machine. Oh, real tough customer, we don't want to mess with her. Except, you know, kinda the whole thing with this game, maybe she's not so tough, she's actually just very sweet. But as always, she has a little mini game for us to play. This time we're hitting the Penny B, the pinball machine. I don't really know how to feel about this mini game. We'll be coming back here in the future, spoiler alert, and this game was a little bit frustrating for a future achievement, but it's also kind of frustrating right here. I managed to scrape by only playing this mini game once, but so often you'll hit the ball and it'll just drop completely out of reach and fall directly into the hole, and that's all she wrote. So it can be a little bit frustrating to get these score requirements you need, but luckily we only need 5,000 first. Once we get that 5,000 score, we get our next family membership badge. This is the last time I'm going to call those out. You can just assume after we win a minigame, we pretty much get one every time. Once we come back out onto the street, we get interrupted by Slick Mickey, who tells us the trolley has arrived and we can actually go into different parts of the city now, so that's neat. But before we'll hop on the rail, we do see one new alligator outside, named Lovely Maria, who just so happens to be Pat's mom. Now, she's out getting ready for the big surprise tonight, and she has a little bit of a task that she wants us to complete, but it's different from all of the other tasks in the game. This one is more long running and will be coming back here a couple times throughout the story. She has a big photo book that she wants us to get all of the family membership cards put into. So there we go, that's why we're collecting all of those. And this is really cool for getting to see the different relationships between all of the characters in the game, though it is a little confusing that it goes from oldest at the bottom to youngest at the top. I've never really seen one done like that, but hey, you know, it's a pretty cool thing to have in the game. After we fill out as much of the tree as we can, which is currently kind of just a bunch of little branches, we get a text from Pat calling us back to the hotel to come check in on him. So the whole time we've been out on the street interrogating people, Pat has been sat in the hotel trying to enjoy his birthday and failing because he's just so anxious. And now he has the great idea that he wants to move back up to his hotel room to try to get some more relaxation in. So let's walk him up there. Unfortunately, Pat locked himself out of his room, but fortunately for us, he keeps his room code on his website, so we navigate this magnificent website to get the code that we can use to unlock his hotel room. Weird stuff, I don't know. With Pat secured in his hotel room, we can go back down to the street and take the trolley into one of the other areas. There are 4 different areas we can choose from, and we're trying to get to the bottom of this big event tonight, so we head straight to the unsavory part of town, of course. The first people we meet in the unsavory part of town are the Valentino twins. So they have a super rich dad who just croaked. Now that's a pretty weird thing for an alligator to do. Normally that's more of a frog thing. But now they have all of these possessions that they need to divide between them. So that's where we come in. This might be the easiest minigame in the whole game. We're literally just clicking through a list and seeing how both of the twins react and then giving it to whoever prefers the item. It's not really difficult at all. The next guy we meet is this super cool guy named Aiden, who is hanging out near a dumpster with his giant pile of super powerful crystals. Aiden wants to harness the mystical powers held within his crystals, but these pesky flies and hornets keep trying to distract him, so we're gonna sit and swat away all of those so that he can activate his superpowers. Once we get through round 3, he becomes activated and starts floating in the air and surrounded by all of these crystals and lights. But even this divine being can't give us the information we need about the event tonight, so moving on. We aren't having too much luck on the main street, so we decide to head down an alley and see what's waiting for us. And we see a sign pointing down that says girls, girls, girls. So you know what's going on in here already. Of course, it is a lecture about Wendy Carlos, a composer and pioneer of synthesizer music from the late 1950s. Yep, that's what we were all thinking. No family members in that meeting, so next up we go inside the very adult bar and we strike up a conversation with Bobby Blue Eyes, who isn't super thrilled to talk to us and also isn't a white dragon. Weird. At the start of the conversation, Bobby Blue Eyes is really throwing out some heaters about how big and tough he is, and I was thinking maybe there's something to this guy. Maybe he's more of a main plot sort of guy. Especially when he challenges us to this game where we need to stab the knife between our fingers. I don't know what this game is called. It's the knife finger game. But anyway, we go through progressively bigger and stronger knives as we play the game with Bobby, but in the end, he accidentally stabs himself with a spoon and he starts crying, so we need to throw a band-aid on his hand, and we move on. He wasn't such a big tough guy after all. Seems like there might be some sort of trend in this family, and it's not actually a hit like Pat thinks it is. The next person we visit in the bar is this super tall guy. What are we gonna call the super tall guy in our game? I don't know, Tall Jared or something. Yeah, that'll work. He's just a tall guy. Tall Jared's big issue is that his phone isn't working, so now we get to go through and try to fix it. I'm not much of an anime guy, but I really did love clicking into his saved images folder and seeing all of these alligator-based anime jokes. They were really funny. I did get a little bit lost during this minigame though. I opened up the video time app 6 times, which allowed me to earn the achievement screen time for opening it 6 times. It was a good video though. Eventually we uncover that Tall Jared's issue is he's somehow got a ghost in his phone, so we need to enable ghost mode and then go through his images to find the ones that are inhabiting the ghost. Once we kick the ghost out, we have finished the minigame and we are done here. The next story we're going to take a look at is the knife. Now, I noticed this guy from across the bar and I did like his vibe. I tried calling out Majima, but he didn't respond, so this must be a different guy who just happens to look alike. The knife's big issue is he looks super scary, so he's having trouble finding a partner, so we're gonna go on a fake little practice date with him to hopefully get his confidence up. And as soon as we agree to help the knife out, we head over to his classroom to start, and we load into this Katawa Shoujo Doki Doki Literature Club type level. Yes, those are the only dating sims I can name. And I get my confirmation that this was a Yakuza reference when he mentions the person he's going to be seeing is a real dragon in the dojima, so he was just ignoring me earlier. Awesome. So this minigame is the typical dating sim type gameplay. We're just picking different options, but we didn't pick the best options the first time around, so we did end up failing, sadly. But even in this loss, we do learn something. If you fail a minigame, you can either pass on it for this playthrough, or you can take a 30-minute time penalty and start again, so you'd be losing out on another potential minigame. We went ahead and restarted this one though. On our second playthrough, we managed to pick the absolute perfect choices, so we earn the achievement Sotenbori Memorial as we complete the minigame. Another Yakuza reference. What are you doing to me, dude? With the unsavory area done, we decide to head over to the Memorial Park next. The park is a pretty cool, wide open area. Yeah, that's what a park is, genius. But there are a ton of people for us to talk to in this section. Our first stop is with the grill master himself, 2-Ton Tony. This is actually Pat's dad, and he of course has another task for us to help out with. This is another pretty easy minigame, but it's also one of the weakest ones, I would say. We're operating this super complicated grill and trying to fix the problems as they spring up. It is really not too difficult at all. We do it on our first try. Once we finish talking to 2-Ton Tony, we get another text from Pat calling us back to the hotel for a shoe-related incident. We give Pat an update that we think he's probably just getting a birthday party tonight from all of his family members, and it's not some big conspiracy, but Pat doesn't really think that that seems quite right, so we're gonna need to keep investigating. Pat's shoe-based minigame is basically just a search and match game that we're pairing shoes. Nothing weird about it. But what is weird is that when we finish, Pat realizes he doesn't wear shoes. So this was just a pretty big waste of time. Awesome. After leaving the hotel, we return to the park and run into our next character, Skids Valentino, who really just reminds me of the smaller Costco guy. He's just a kid and he wants to play hide and seek, so obviously we have to let him win. He hides in pretty obvious spots and we just click around the map to make it look like we're looking but not seeing him. Eventually we win the minigame and we can move on. Our next meetup is with Tin Lizzie, and we have another one of these gators having issues with their phone. What is it with this family? Tin Lizzie is also the girlfriend of that mystical body of power Aiden we met earlier in the game. Tin Lizzie's game revolves around helping her put together some photos from social media that have been messed up somehow in her phone. There's these different spinning bars that we need to click on to stop to form correct pictures. And this seems pretty easy, but it actually gets pretty challenging when they start going faster and faster each round. So it's a little more complicated than initially thought, but we do manage to succeed on our first try. Hey, look, it's the big Costco guy. He's here too. This is gentle Lorenzo. He's actually Pat's brother, and he's a big fitness guy, you know what I'm saying? He has a buddy who's this little bird, not an alligator, confusingly. And basically we're playing Flappy Bird with him, but trying to hit the things that will help him bulk up so that he can become a fitness guy too. Eventually when we complete the minigame, the bird is super swole and I give that a huge boom! After we close out of Lorenzo, Pat gives us one more text message asking us to come back to the hotel because it's time for the party and he wants us to walk him there. After we arrive at the hotel, we do one more minigame where we walk Pat through the dark hallways of the hotel into the main room where the event is going to be taking place. As we step into the light, this is the moment of truth. Pat has been so worried all day and he's ready to be taken out by his family. But when we open up the door, he has a great surprise waiting for him. He gets super happy because it is in fact a birthday party for Pat, and all of the family members that we've met up to this point are here and happy to celebrate him. So now we have a little bit of time to mingle with the guests. This is really all just character building stuff. Nobody here has anything super story relevant to say, but it's good to see the family all together again. When we finally talk to Pat, he is super excited. He was dreading this all day, and now he's having a great day. And he wants to take a big family photo with everyone, including us. So now we get to design our character, somebody that we have never seen all the way through this game, and take the family photo with everybody. One of my few complaints about this game is that it doesn't save the changes you make to your character between different playthroughs, which would have been very nice and time-saving, but we do get a pretty cool image here. So we finish the game now, and this seems like the end, until we get this message from Mandy telling us that things aren't quite what they seem. We definitely have a lot more to do. There's at least 2 full areas that we haven't touched yet from the time limitations from this first playthrough, so there are definitely a lot more family members to meet, and thankfully our progress is saved. When we choose to continue our new game, we start over at the beginning and earn the achievement Try Again. But it's like we've already started the story, we don't really need to talk to Pat all the way through again. So with the whole day out in front of us, we opt to go to the park first where we meet Lil Giovanni. Now he is a Renaissance man trying to craft the perfect soda from the fountain drinks out in the park. And his minigame is just that. Basically, he tells us what flavors he wants, and then we mix it for him, he tries it, and we move on to the next round. This is another pretty simple minigame, to be honest. Another cool thing about this second playthrough is that whenever Pat texts us to come check out stuff with him, we can text him that we're busy, and instead we just spend the amount of time texting instead of actually going and doing the minigame. And when we scroll up through those texts, there is some pretty good content, like this Ruth Gator Ginsbop card that we found. I don't know, I just thought this was really funny. After that, we hop on the trolley and head over to the downtown area. Our first stop is to talk to this quartet of singers who are hanging out on the street, and all of these people happen to be related to Pat, except for Lewis, who is just a family friend. Their minigame was a little confusing at first, but basically we just need to put the spotlight on the person getting the solo at the time. The next person we meet is called Mona the Snipper, and I absolutely thought her name was Mona the Sniper when I first talked to her. So Mona's basic thing is that she has 3 main interests, those being K-pop, comics, and overthrowing the mayor. It's really just like a social justice thing, but a big focus on the mayor. And her side quest is based on putting together a magazine that features all 3 of these things in equal measures, so it looks like she doesn't have any bias. This was really hard for me. I did a bad job on this minigame, but eventually we managed to persevere and we get the editor's approval. Moving on down the street, our next target is Papuli, who is selling bugs out on the street and really just wants to talk about the old war days, but he does have another little side quest for us. He wants us to put back this picture that has been scrambled into a slide puzzle. Now, one thing about me that I didn't know prior to starting this is I'm really bad at slide puzzles, gang. This was not good. But luckily for me, a little pop-up in the corner popped up that said, hey, you're not very good at this. Let us just solve it for you and you'll get the win. I did that, but it was a bad idea, as we'll see later. After that, we are finished on the street, so now we can move inside of the antique shop, and the first person we meet is Little Diamond Alice. Diamond Alice basically just wants to eat a giant pile of pancakes, but she only wants to eat it on her special plate. So we need to go through the classic Tower of Hanoi problem and arrange them as she wants to eat them. Pretty easy stuff. Next up is the Black Widow, and if you remember that poor croaking alligator from earlier, this is his former wife. And she wants to use this Ouija board to determine if he is going to haunt her due to the mysterious circumstances of his death. This is a pretty fun minigame overall though. We're basically just moving the little Ouija triangle thing around, trying to track the husband's ghost as he floats around the board, giving us messages. With that customer dealt with, we can move over to Nana Roo, the owner of this antique store. And she is quite busy, but she can make a little bit of time for a short game with us. Her game of choice is Old Maid, where you take turns drawing cards from each other's hand, trying to make pairs, and the person holding the Old Maid at the end is the loser. So this game is pretty much just raw luck, but hey, we won anyway. Nana Roo also has one other minigame for us though. On the baby monitor in the shop, we can watch over Pat's younger sister, and we're trying to scare away the ghosts that are trying to attack her from being in the antique shop. I did not understand what this was asking me to do, so I completely failed the first time. But we don't get another chance to play through the baby monitor game again on this playthrough because it's time for us to go to Pat's surprise party once again. Things are pretty much exactly the same on this ending, except now we get a special thing after the party. We cross off finish the job from our checklist, we approach Pat from behind while he's standing at a railing, and we push him down into the city below. This was actually very shocking to me. Are we the bad guy? I guess we've got to keep playing and figure this out now. Back in the main game, we return to the baby monitor minigame and successfully protect the baby from all of the ghosts to earn achievement number 5, Love That Baby. While we're riding the bus home, we encounter Babyface Constance. This is Nana Roo's sister, who once again challenges us to a game of Even Older Maid, and we once again manage to luck our way through. And now that we've beaten Baby-Faced Constance at cards, for some reason we're allowed to enter the engineer's station and meet with good old Clancy, the trolley driver. And it's good we met with Clancy, because his minigame involves those puzzle pieces we've been finding hidden all around town. They're actually all parts of his motivational posters that we can put together for him to get certain rewards. Our first reward from old Clancy is an extra stop on the trolley. There's a place called 9th Street Station that was shut down that we now have access to. When we arrive at 9th Street Station, we talk immediately to the most suspicious guy that we can see around. It's a guy named Gary the Nose, wearing the big trench coat, the bandana, the hat. We don't know anything about this guy, and he's in the secret area. He must be a pretty tough customer. Well, kinda. He's actually working on making forgeries of original paintings because he wants to be a famous painter. So he has us look through the originals and find anything that's messed up. Pretty easy search and find game as we can switch between them at will. And there's only one other thing to do in this station. We click into the door and oh my god, there's a coffin in here. I didn't see that one coming. Ugh. Inside the coffin is some sort of mysterious entity named Big Mama. Big Mama is Pat's great-grandma, and why does she hang out here in the coffin? I don't know, let's just play her minigame and get out of here. She gives us 3 tarot cards that we can flip over in an order of our choosing. I don't know how these vary, really. I don't know if there's a way to even fail this game, to be honest with you, or if I just happen to pick the correct order the first time. That seems unlikely. It feels like kind of a no-fail sort of game. But once we manage to get away from Big Mama reading our fortune, we return to the first area to finish filling out the family tree. Now we've picked up everybody, so we earn the achievement When You're Here, Your Family. We'll have everybody gathered at the end party now. But we can pretty easily knock out another achievement before that. We've already played Older Maid and the tarot card game, so we return to play Slick Mickey's game and Old Maid once again, so we can earn the achievement Card Shark for winning all of the card-based minigames in one go-through. Now that we have the full family tree filled out, we go to the party one last time, we push Pat, but things are different this time. We earn the achievement Save Pat, and we see Pat's true fate. We push him, but we reach down and grab him to pull him up. It seems like we had a change of heart or something at the last moment. The game cuts to the next morning, and we get explained exactly that. We were a hitman hired to take out Pat, and we had a change of heart at the last moment. As we were pushing him over, we decided to pull him back up. But the most interesting thing about that is that Pat actually called the hitman on himself. He was having a sandwich, dropped some jelly on the newspaper, and misunderstood our ad for a hitman that we had put in the paper, I guess. But Pat called us to try to lend us a hand for our personal ad, but instead accidentally put a hit on himself, and, you know, he's just such a nice guy, we couldn't go through with it. Mandy comes into the kitchen with us and says, "See you later, alligator," so we get our fulfilling end to the title of the game. And now we have 6 achievements left, so we can go ahead and bang those out now that we're completely finished with the story. Our first goal is to finish collecting all of those puzzle pieces that we lost from before, and the most challenging one of those is to actually finish this slide puzzle. I'm so bad at slide puzzles, everybody. It was really bad, but eventually we managed to do it and get all of the pieces, which allow us to unlock achievement number 9, the trolley problem, and finish up Clancy's quest. The next achievement is one I never would have got in a million years had it not been listed on the achievement list. We need to do the Aiden quest one more time, but we hit him with the fly swatter when he's entering his astral form, and then we need to sit and wait for 8 hornets to spawn. Then we earn the achievement, the bees are in my eyes. That's a weird one. With the statue of Aiden now in place, we can return to Tin Lizzie and play her minigame again, but this time one of her pictures is of her and statue Aiden, so when we put that one together, we earn the achievement Solid Snake. And it's actually double beneficial for us that we needed to return to the picture correction minigame, because our next achievement requires us to hit at least 3 of the art-based minigames throughout the game, those being the picture correction, the counterfeit photos, the scrapbooking, and finally we hit up the Ouija board to earn the achievement Art History Degree from CUANY. I think that's City University of Alligator, New York City. I think my cousin went there. And for our final 2 achievements, we return to the very first area of the game, the arcade. So in the crane minigame, we need to pick up Bawman and Piderman in the same round. So those are 2 dolls that look like Batman and Spider-Man, and when we get them both in one round, we earn the achievement We're Best Friends. I could see this one being kind of annoying to do if they're positioned in kind of bad places, but we actually did it without too much issue. And finally, oh man, I kind of referenced this earlier, this is by far the most difficult and worst achievement in the game. It's called Pinball Lizard. We need to score 15,000 points in pinball. And this is really just a game of resetting your game until you get lucky enough to score the points without the ball just falling straight into the hole without any way to catch it. Though there is one additional mechanic that we didn't know about at the start. You can actually hit the B key on your keyboard to jiggle the machine a little bit, and that will bounce the ball into different locations. But this can actually have a little bit of a drawback if the ball falls out of the machine, which can soft lock your game. That is a pretty rough mechanic. I don't know why that was in here. That's really one of my only other complaints about this game, but eventually we score the 15,000 points, and we can say we have done everything in Later Alligator. So, how did we do? I managed to finish Later Alligator in just under 7 hours, which seems pretty typical based on what I'm seeing online. I think I did a fairly decent job of covering my thoughts on the game as we went through, but like I said at the beginning, this is truly a hidden gem of a game. I've looked it up on YouTube. There are some bigger creators that have done videos on this, but personally, I had never heard of this game prior to last week. And, whew, man, this was a good game. There are little things that could be different. Some of the minigames weren't as good as others, but, you know, they had to make a lot of minigames. I can't really blame them for that, especially when you had to, like, tie them into the character and everything. I think it works out that there are some minigames that are worse than others, and some minigames that are really good. The only thing that I can really complain about in this game is that grind with the pinball machine at the end. You can't just play the pinball machine over and over, you actually have to Alt F4 out if you only have that one achievement left, which is kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. It was easy enough to do. This game pretty much nailed everything. I mean, the art style was super cool, the noir stuff was really interesting, the big twist at the end was actually surprising, and the music, I didn't play any of it in this video, but hey, you might want to look it up. It's pretty neat stuff. I would definitely give this game a strong recommendation. I believe when this video goes out, there's going to be one more day to the Steam Summer Sale. So hey, maybe if you're interested in what we looked at here and you want to look at things a little bit more in depth, look into the characters and the jokes, there are a ton of things that I didn't even touch upon that I just couldn't fit in the video. Now would be a good time to pick it up, but it's definitely worth the full price. I hope you enjoyed watching as much as I enjoyed playing it, and I hope to see you next week for the next I Did Everything video. As always, please feel free to leave your likes and subscriptions, as well as comments about the story of the game, or any recommendations for games you'd like to see me play next. Thanks so much for checking it out. See you!